Everybody, welcome to the Steelers Nation Unite Huddle presented by Hyundai. Today we are joined by General Manager Kevin Colbert to talk a little post-draft. Kev, thanks for joining us.
No problem.
All right, we have a ton of fan questions to get to today, so we're going to jump right in. The first one, I do not know this username, how to pronounce it, but they want to know, why did you make the choice to pick a quarterback in the third round of the draft this year?
Well, it was really a simple choice because we had Mason Rudolph rated among a really good group of quarterbacks, which was unique to this draft. We haven't seen a group like this, in all honesty, since the 2004 draft when we were able to pick Ben. So Mason had first-round grades on him. We thought that he can be an eventual starter in this league at some point, and if you don't take a quarterback that you have rated that high, you're really not doing your organization right. So it was really a simple pick at that point in time, and we just hope that Mason is who we think he is, and time will tell. I mean, you know, the quarterback position is unique. It's the most important position on any NFL team. So his growth and development, fortunately, doesn't have to be overnight because we obviously have a Hall of Fame quarterback who we hope plays for as many years as he can, and he can help us win some Super Bowls while Mason develops.
All right, SNU member says, to what extent are you involved in the process of finding and hiring new position coaches, or is that completely up to Coach Tomlin?
Coach Tomlin does the hiring, but he may come to me and ask me if I know of this coach or have I seen this coach work at the college level or whatever. So it's always Coach Tomlin's decision on his staffing, but he may ask my input just to see if I have any knowledge of the people he's considering.
All right, Jenny has a good question. She wants to know, what was the first job you had ever, even as a teenager?
Cutting grass. Well, I was a paper boy when I was real young. And then I actually cut grass and trimmed weeds and dug graves in a cemetery.
Okay. Nothing football related. All right. SNU member wants to know, how are the new position coaches included into your draft process since they're new to the team? I asked because it seemed like Coach Munch was a little surprised taking an offensive lineman in this year's draft.
No, the coaches, I mean, whether they're new to the staff or not, that's irrelevant. They come in and we teach them what we do and how we do it and why we do it. So they're included in the process. And really, we go through the fall. Myself and the scouts are out. We're scouting the players. Of course, our coaches are coaching our team. And once our season's over, we've gone through and we have our initial evaluations, preliminary evaluations, and once we can get the coaches involved after the season, then I may give them a list of 10 to 15 guys at their position that we want them to look at and evaluate and get another opinion on. So the coaches are involved. Coach might have been surprised because we'd only drafted one offensive lineman since Coach Munchak came on board with us. So I think he'll hopefully be pleasantly surprised once he gets to meet and spend a little time with Chukwuma.
Okay. Blitzburg 6 says, how much is character a factor during your draft strategy? What are some of the other major factors that you guys look at?
Well, obviously talent is you know, the first. If the guy's a good player, we have to establish that first and foremost. And then, of course, we will weigh in medical, which is dictated by our doctors, and then the character, which is dictated by a bunch of different sources. Our scouts out in the fall gathering information on the players, the personal interviews we do with the players, the background checks we do with the players, the psychological testing that we do. And we'll grade a guy based on his football talents, and we'll numerically grade a guy based on the character and medical as well, so as to properly place his overall grade, which we'll come to a conclusive decision on.
Okay, BBQ Dad 67 says, I wanted to know how closely you guys followed the other AFC North teams during the draft to see how they're restocking their teams for the upcoming season.
Really, it really matters not what the other folks are doing. We never go into a draft saying that we have to defend so-and-so twice a year, because if we go into it with that mindset, or we go into it saying we have to defeat so-and-so twice a season, then you draft that player to do that, and maybe that player gets injured, or the player you're trying to cover or uncover, so to speak, you could be making a mistake. So we just try to get as many good players as we can, and then we just adjust accordingly. And it's not as complicated as I think sometimes it's made out to be. It's simply, let's try to get the best we can, and then we can adjust to their talents.
Member 7 says, is there any news or updates on LeVeon Bell?
Not to this point. I mean, again, that was something we put on the back burner. During free agency, during the draft preparations, we've gotten through the draft, and, you know, we have until July 15th to try to get a long-term deal done, not meaning that we'll wait until that point if we're going to do anything. But again, this is the time of year where we try to refocus on who we have, what our cap situation is. You know, it actually changed over the draft weekend when we traded Martavis Bryant, and we ended up cutting J.J. Wilcox about a week later. It opened up some cap room that we didn't think we would have. So how do we best utilize that? But again, signing LeVeon to an extension has always been our goal.
Okay. Rick Sr. says, as a VP and GM, how do you handle all the different personalities, especially from your star players?
Really, that's really a group effort. You know, Coach Tomlin obviously deals with the players day in and day out in meetings and on the field, and I myself will have my own interactions, as will Mr. Rooney have his interactions with the players. So we all try to manage their personalities. They try to manage ours, and we just all really try to grow and work together because we all have the one common goal, which is to win a Super Bowl. So if we see things that maybe are deterring us from that, or they see things that maybe we're doing that are deterring from that goal, maybe we can talk to each other. But it's a very open organization where there's a lot of interaction between players, coaches, management, and ownership.
All right, all of the rookies are coming into town, into Pittsburgh, starting tomorrow. Then it's rookie minicamp. Can you kind of take us through what that is exactly?
Rookie minicamp is the starting spot for these kids, and they'll come in over this weekend. They'll come in very big-eyed because some of them have been to our facility, some of them haven't. They won't get really any interaction with our veteran players because our veteran players won't be here on Friday or Saturday or Sunday during those practice sessions unless they come into the locker room for picking something up. But there won't be that interaction. But it'll be a big learning process for these guys. Our coaches will throw as much at them as they think they can handle so that when they come back for the spring and the OTAs, they've at least had exposure to what they're going to have to learn. And that will be, because it's only the rookies, it's really a concentration on getting them up to speed as much as they possibly can in that time period. When they come back for the spring and the OTAs, we'll expand on that, and they'll also at that point have exposure to the veteran players. And of course, when we go to training camp, it's more about the physical development more than the mental development, but really both have to continue to happen at that point.
Okay, and because we're talking about a lot of the rookies in the draft, and it is rookie minicamp, our keyword today is rookie, so you can head to SteelersNationUnite.com after this huddle and enter the keyword rookie to earn your extra yards. But back to a lot of your questions. This one is just from a generic member, Kev. They want to know, how long ago did you realize that this is what you wanted to do for your career?
Well, you know, sports was always big in my family. You know, as a young kid growing up on the north side, I mean, we played sports year-round. It was whatever the season was. We'd play pickup football, pickup basketball, pickup hockey, pickup baseball. And, you know, I had certain talents in some sports and not in others. I was able to play all four. I was best in baseball, was able to play that at the collegiate level, and the others I played at the high school level. So growing up, you always wanted to be, I always wanted to be in sports. And fortunately, my progression towards football was really, I had older brothers that played in college, and I watched them. I had uncles that were in the coaching profession, and we always had a real attraction to the football. And that was something that I just kind of grew in, even though not as much as a player, a little bit as a coach. But the personnel side really goes back to the Rooney family having a connection with North Catholic High School and them hiring people from North Catholic who eventually became scouts. And then, of course, my relationships with those folks enabled me to get into the business I loved.
All right, this is from MCS18. Good afternoon, Mr. Colbert. Thanks for doing this. With 4 quarterbacks on the roster, I'm curious, do preseason games count enough of a test to see who the contenders are, OTAs, training camp? What goes into the decision?
All the above. I mean, we go to training camp with 4 quarterbacks every year. This year we happen to have 2 young players, Joshua Dobbs, who was drafted in the 4th round last year, and of course Mason Rudolph, who we took in the 3rd round. In this draft, of course, we have Ben and Landry Jones. So we always like to have the quarterback position well stocked. If we think back a few years ago when Ben was our starter, obviously, then we had Byron Leftwich, who was a backup, and Charlie Batch. I mean, we had 3 players, all happened to be from the Mid-American Conference, but, you know, 2 of them were first-round picks, and Charlie, of course, was a second. But both Charlie and Byron had experience as a starter. You know, and it was good to have that experience behind a younger Ben. Well, now Ben has become the elder of the group, and we always want to have young guys progressing in that position, especially in the 3rd position, because we, like half the teams in the league, like to carry 3, but you also like to have that 3rd guy be practice squad eligible. Now, if they're as good as we hope they are, they may not make it to the practice squad if you ever have to make that move, and that's fine too, because 3 people to play the most critical position is always a good option in our opinion. So hopefully we'll have that position stocked for years to come.
All right, Rome's Junior 89 says, do you think you guys will be adding any more tight ends during this offseason?
Never know. I mean, every position, we're always, you know, our pro scouts are always watching the other teams. And, you know, we watch the waiver wire daily. Once you get through the spring, into training camp, some trade stuff will start to crop up, and we'll evaluate all of that. But we'll also be evaluating the 90 guys we have and the 90 guys that other teams have, so that when they make their cuts, we may make changes on our roster if we think that's an upgrade.
All right, this is from SNU member. Now that you guys have traded Martavis to the Raiders, who do you see as his replacement right now?
That's a work in progress. We'll find out. Obviously, we have Antonio Brown. We have Juju Smith-Schuster. And we know Hayward Bay, Darius is with us still, as is Justin Hunter came back. Eli Rogers suffered that knee injury last year in our playoff game, unfortunately, and he hasn't gotten back into the mix yet because he's not at full health. At some point, he may get back into the mix as well. And then we'll see what James Washington can do. And, you know, we had a couple guys that were on our practice squad last year that are back in the mix. So we'll see how this all unfolds really throughout the course of the rookie camp and the OTAs in the spring and training camp.
All right, we have time for just a few more. This one is also from a generic member. How is Kyon Adams doing and developing after his injury?
Well, Kyon has done fine from a rehab standpoint. You know, he was really through that injury in about 5 months he was fully healthy. Now it's a matter of conditioning and getting back into football. So until he gets onto the football field and works, it's really hard to answer that because we haven't seen him do football other than just the rehab stuff.
Okay, and our last question is from Steelers fan 75. How soon do you and your scouting department start looking ahead to the 2019 draft?
Great question. That process will start on May 21st when we go to Fort Lauderdale in our combine. Blessed though, there's 7 teams, and we get together and we discuss the players that will be available for the 2019 draft. So we'll spend a week at those meetings. We'll come back from that, adjust our scouting schedules for the fall, and we'll pick up with that when we break training camp and start the process all over. But in reality, it starts on May 21st.
So never too much of a break.
No, not. You always got to be looking. We always got to be trying to be getting better.
All right, perfect. Friendly reminder, your keyword for today is rookie. Kevin, thank you so much for your time. I'm sure the fans really appreciate it.
Great, thank you.
All right, that's going to do it for the Steelers Nation Night Huddle presented by Hyundai.